Welcome to Make a Difference with RJ channel. Interest rate swaps, reading 17 and part 1. In this video, you're going to learn introduction to interest rate swaps, detailed explanation on how payer and receiver swap works, and how are interest rate swaps used to change portfolio duration. What is floating interest rate? Floating interest rate is market reference rate. So as the interest rate changes, the market rate changes, floating interest rate changes. It is opposite of fixed interest rate. Now let's say ABC company has borrowed 10 million with a floating interest rate for 3 years. So ABC company is going to pay floating rate to the bank. After a few months, interest rates are expected to go up. So as the interest rate go up, ABC company is going to pay interest rate more and more to the bank. Since the floating rate is increasing, ABC company needs to do something to remove this effect of the floating rate. And now effectively ABC company wants to actually pay fixed rate. So what is this ABC company going to do? ABC company will go to the swap dealer and say, hey, I want to pay the fixed rate. I want to have the swap deal with you. So ABC company will arrange a swap, which we will call it payer swap. So ABC company will pay fixed rate. Swap dealer in effect will pay the floating rate to the company, and that floating rate will go to the bank. And this arrangement is called payer swap. Why is it called payer swap? Because the ABC company is paying fixed rate to the swap dealer. So whenever in the arrangement one party is paying fixed rate to the swap dealer, that arrangement is called payer swap. So now this way payer swap has actually converted floating rate to the fixed rate. We have this arrangement with the swap dealer. So ABC company is paying fixed rate to the swap dealer, and the floating rate is coming from the swap dealer. That rate is going to the bank. So this way our arrangement, payer swap arrangement, has converted floating rate to the fixed rate. Now let's look at the different scenario. We have a DEF company which has borrowed 10 million with a fixed interest rate for 3 years, and after few months interest rates are expected to go down. So here we have a DEF company which is paying fixed interest rate and the interest rates are going down. What is going to happen now? Because DEF company will keep paying fixed interest rate and cannot take the advantage of interest rate going down. Now here is a DEF company which has borrowed fixed interest rate and now cannot take advantage of the interest rate going down. So to take the advantage of interest rate going down, they will go to the swap dealer and say, hey, we want to have a swap deal. We will pay floating interest rate to you. Swap dealer will now pay fixed rate to the company, and that fixed rate will go to the bank. This arrangement is called receiver swap. Why receiver swap? Because a company is paying floating rate to the swap dealer. That's why it is called receiver swap. Remember, whenever a company is paying fixed rate to the swap dealer, it is called payer swap. And whenever floating rate is paid by the company to the swap dealer, then it is called receiver swap. So receiver swap has converted fixed rate to floating rate. DEF company is paying floating rate now, and whenever they are receiving fixed rate, that fixed rate will go to the bank. So that removes the effect of the fixed rate, and now they can take advantage of the floating rate. So far we looked at the liability side when swap was needed. Now let's look at the asset side. Divya Bank has issued 10 million loan to ABC company with a floating interest rate, and now interest rates are going up. Should they worry if interest rates are going up? No, they should not worry. So when Divya Bank has issued 10 million loan to ABC company with a floating interest rate, in case of interest rate falling down scenario, bank will need to convert floating interest rate to fixed interest rate. Why is that? Because they are going to receive now less and less interest rate. So whenever there is asset side and you are receiving floating rate and the interest rate is going down, at that time that company will need swap. Now bank needs to use swap to convert this floating interest rate to the fixed rate. See, company is paying bank floating interest rate. Bank will pay floating rate to the swap dealer, and then swap dealer will pay fixed rate to the bank. What this swap will be called? Since bank is paying floating rate, the naming convention works with the paying interest rate. Since bank is paying floating rate to the swap dealer, this swap will be called receiver swap. So when do you need swap? Remember, first important thing in this one is exposure. What kind of the exposure you have? Do you have a liability or asset? If you have a liability and which is floating and interest rates are rising, then in that case it needs to convert to fixed interest rate and you need swap, which is pair swap. If you have asset and that is floating and interest rates are falling, then you need to convert it to the fixed rate, and that swap you require is a receiver swap. Exactly opposite, when the liability is fixed and interest rates are falling, that time you need to convert it to floating interest rate and you require swap, receiver swap. If you have asset which is fixed asset and interest rates are rising, then you need to convert it to floating interest rate and the swap is required as a pair swap. During the exam tension, it is very difficult to remember this table. So let me give you a very easy way to remember the table. Just remember these two things. Liability is floating and interest rates are rising, then you need a pair swap. So just remember LFRP. Also, second important thing is pair swaps are negative duration. So floating interest rates rising, you need a negative duration, which is a pair swap. Floating rising pair. Second thing you need to remember is asset. When there is asset and the floating interest rate are falling, then you need a receiver swap. Receiver swaps always have a positive duration. So remember that asset floating falling, you need a positive duration. Let us see the example of with the calculation. ABC company has borrowed 10 million with the floating interest rate for 3 years. Semi-annual pay LIBOR plus 50 basis point. After a few months, interest rates are expected to go up. So which swap they need? We have floating interest rate but the liability. So liability, floating interest rate, rising rate, we need a negative duration, which is a pair swap. So ABC has entered into a pair swap with a 3% fixed rate. This information has been given. At the initiation, LIBOR rate is 2%. Calculate payment for both the party. So let us see the calculation. We have ABC company which is paying floating rate to the bank. This is going to remain fixed throughout the example. ABC company will have to keep paying floating rate to the bank. How much will they keep paying? LIBOR plus 50 basis point. So for this time it is given that 2% LIBOR rate is there and the 2% is always annual rate. So we need to calculate the semi-annual rate. LIBOR plus 50 basis point. So 2.5% divided by 2 for the semi-annual rate multiplied by 10 million, which is $125,000. This company will pay to the bank. Now how much this ABC company is going to receive from the swap dealer? They will receive just the LIBOR. So LIBOR 10 million into 2% divided by 2, which is $100,000. And how much ABC company is going to pay to the swap dealer, which is fixed rate. Now when the company has entered into the pair swap, 3% fixed rate was there and that is going to remain same. The LIBOR rate will keep changing. For the time being, 3% divided by 2, which is 1.5%, into 10 million, which is $150,000. So let's see the total. We have minus 125,000, and the swap 150,000 minus plus 100,000, that is the swap deal is going to give minus 50,000. So total this company will pay minus $175. Okay. Now after 6 months, LIBOR rate is 4%. Let us calculate the payment for both the party. We have again ABC company paying floating rate, that is not going to change, only the LIBOR rate is changing. So we have 4% LIBOR rate, 50 basis point, 4.5% divided by 2 multiplied by 10 million notional amount. So 225,000 company will have to pay to the bank. How much company is going to receive from the swap dealer? It's going to receive LIBOR rate, so 4% divided by 2 for the semi-annual payment multiplied by 10 million, which is 200,000. And how much this company is going to pay to the swap dealer? That is, we have fixed rate 3% divided by 2, so multiplied by 10 million, $150,000. Let's see the total. FRN is minus 225,000 and swap is now going to give us positive 50,000. The total is minus $175,000. So remember, the company has changed the floating rate to the fixed rate. It is now going to pay, no matter what the LIBOR rate, it is going to pay minus $175,000. And how is this swaps need to change the duration of the portfolio? We know that paired swap is pay fixed rate and receive floating, which means paired swap is valuable when interest rates are increasing and it has a negative modified duration. In the scenario of increasing interest rate, you would like to decrease the modified duration of the portfolio. That can be done with the pair swap, which is negative modified duration. And opposite is true when interest rates are decreasing. You can use a receiver swap to increase the modified duration of portfolio. Let us see this with example. Let us see first formula to change the modified duration. We have notional principal of swap, and how to calculate that notional principal of swap? We have modified duration of target portfolio minus modified duration of current portfolio divided by the modified duration of swap multiplied by market value of portfolio. This is very easy. So we have target duration minus current duration divided by the duration of swap, and if we multiply that with the market value of portfolio, we will have notional principal of swap. ABC company has a 20 million portfolio of fixed income US bonds. Now manager believes that interest rate will fall over next 2 years, and he decides to increase portfolio duration from 6 to 7.5. A pair swap has a duration of minus 1.5 and a receiver swap has a duration of 1.5. The question is, what type of swap will be required to achieve the target duration? And the second question is, how much notional amount will be required for a swap? Now let's think. Manager wants to increase the portfolio duration. That can be achieved using what? A negative duration or a positive duration? We need positive duration, that is a receiver swap. So the answer to the first question, we need receiver swap to achieve target duration. Now to calculate the notional amount, we will use a formula which is target duration 7.5 minus 6, which is the current duration, divided by 1.5, which is a receiver swap, multiplied by market value $20 million, and that will give us 20 million, because 1.5 divided by 1.5 into 20 million. So here we need notional amount of $20 million. Let's take another example. Now we have ABC company which has $95 million portfolio of fixed income and US bonds. Manager believes that interest rates will rise over next 2 years, and that's why he decided to decrease portfolio duration from 8 years to 6 years. Now notional amount for swap is $76 million. Question is, what type of swap will be required to achieve the target duration, and what will be the duration of swap? Now the answer to the first question is, let's see, we need to have decreased the portfolio duration, so need a negative duration, and the negative duration is from the pair swap. So that's why we need pair swap. Let's find out now the duration for the swap. So we have the formula. We have 76 million notional amount, and 8 is the target, 8 is the duration of the portfolio. The target duration is 6 years into 95 million, and we have divided by the modified duration of the swap. So here we have minus 190 divided by 76, which is equal to 2.5. So we need a pair swap with the duration of 2.5 years. And that's how we can change the modified duration of the portfolio using swap. We used how to calculate the notional amount of the swap, and also we learned how to calculate the swap duration. See you in the next video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.